Hey guys, do you feel like you've bought some food and you've put it away in your pantry and now you can't find it? Or maybe you just went grocery shopping and you're putting your groceries away and you see that you've bought something that you already had. Well, I'm gonna tell you exactly why that happens. It's actually a very simple reason. You simply cannot see what's in your pantry. Having an organized pantry really goes a long way in making you feel calmer and less stressed. It's kind of the same idea with your home being neat and tidy or your bedroom being clean. And when I say an organized pantry, I don't mean like the ones you see on Pinterest or TikTok. I mean a real pantry in a real home that is realistic. Those pantries that you see online, they're really nice and they look nice and organized and everything, but to me, they're kind of staged and they don't take advantage of all of the space that's in the pantry, so it's really just a lot of wasted space. We live in a somewhat small home. However, we are fortunate enough to have this large pantry. This is right behind me. We actually built this ourselves because we have 5 people in our home and we just needed extra space to store our food and our appliances. I don't like going shopping more than once a week, so I like to keep my pantry full. I like to keep it fully stocked. I don't want to have a lot of wasted space sitting around in the pantry, so I like to fill this thing up. Okay, so we're gonna dive into my pantry. Again, word of warning, it is not uber organized like the ones that you see online. However, I know where everything is and I can find it really quickly and easily. Okay, so the first thing is when you're organizing your pantry, you wanna think about who uses the pantry. If it's just you, great, then you can organize it exactly how you want to. If you've got kids, you kind of need to think about that as well. I have 3 kids, and so I like to organize it in a way that the kids have their own shelf, it's at their eye level, and they can reach it. I'm gonna show you. They've got their things here, and they can access them easily, but they're not rifling through the entire pantry and messing everything up. And then for me, I like to cook, and I like to bake, so I actually have entire shelves, one dedicated to baking and one dedicated to cooking. So this is the kids' pantry. You also need to think about the size and shape of your pantry. So for example, this shelf is really tall and this shelf is really tall, so it's a lot taller than the ones above. And while these shelves are adjustable, essentially this is kind of where I would keep taller things like cereal boxes. These are all the kids' things. This is their cereal, their snacks. This is kind of like their home snack bin that they can pull out. There's some oatmeal in here. But again, this is just like super accessible for them. And this is the only place in the pantry that they go into. My next tip for the pantry is to organize like items with like items. This is really a key, in my opinion, to an organized pantry. So like one example, of course, is the kids' items are all together. So kind of up here, I've got my pastas and my sauces. I've got all these other chocolates here, more chocolates up here together, and it just kind of goes on and on. And then let me show you on the other side. And here, these are all my baking supplies, and then up here, I've got all of my spices and all of the things that I use to cook with. Okay, the next tip is that you want to maximize your space. One of the ways is to use bins so that you can corral your items and keep them all together. Then you can also decant your items. I think that decanting things that you use frequently is really helpful. I've got my flour and my sugar decanted. I can link these. I also decant all of my dried goods. You know, I've got beans and rice and lentils and those kinds of things. I like to label my items. I don't do like printed labels. I've got this chalkboard tape and you can just like, erase it. You can write on this with chalk and that works really well so that you know what you have. I also think if you use an item frequently, it's really good to decant it because then you know like how to cook it and prepare it. If it's something you don't use that frequently, you can always cut the label out and stick the label right into the jar with the item that you've decanted. You can, go ahead and tape the label up onto the jar. This is like the cookie recipe from the Nestle Toll House chocolate chips. So you can do stuff like that so that you know exactly how the item needs to be prepared or if you want to save a recipe. Okay, so I also decant my kids' school snacks. I've got a lot of the overflow stored up top, but then I put the rest of them in here. As you can see, these come with like bulky packaging. They take up a lot of space in the pantry, so I like to just decant them and put them in this bin. And then what I do is, because these are school snacks, I actually put them up high away from where the kids would be in the pantry often. The reason is these are all individually wrapped, so I don't like the kids to have these at home because they can have just like snacks in bulk at home. These are more for like at school, outside of the house kind of snacking. And I just stick them right up there. A lot of pantries, mine included, have deep shelves. In those cases, I think it's really good to take advantage of organizational items so that you can see what you have and you can organize it well. Let me show you some things that I've got. I have mentioned this wire shelf frequently. This is great to take advantage of the space underneath and above, especially if you have deep shelves and you want to see what you have. I think that this wire shelf kind of like really helps to do that. Okay, coming down here, I've shared this before, but I really love this little thing that just organizes your tinfoil, your saran wrap. If you've got these deep, dark cabinets, this just keeps it so that you can see it and you know where it is. This is like, I'll link it, but it's renter friendly. It just sticks right onto any shelf and it works really well. If you've got like an old magazine, you know, these like magazine holders, I just put our little plastic bags in here so that I can find them, because otherwise they just get shoved to the back of the pantry and lost. A vase, if you know these green, you can put your bananas in them and it keeps them fresher longer. You can put your fruits and vegetables in these little green bags. They're the Debbie Meyer ones. I just keep them in this vase so that I know where they are. I've gotten rid of the packaging, but I had this old vase and I put it to use for storage. I also like to use these bins for canned goods, and then that way I can just pull the whole thing out and see what I have. They have those like can organizers, like the gravity ones, so the cans fall forward. I think that's a good idea as well when you've got these deep shelves. Another thing when you've got deep shelves that I like to do is I will take like items, like this is all like bullion, right? And I'll just organize it in a line, and I'll put the same thing in a line straight back. In this case, it's not going all the way back because I only have 3, but I'm just kind of trying to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. I do this with like pasta boxes. I'll put them in a line of the same thing, or pasta sauces, the same idea. And then that way you just know that like, okay, from here back, this is pasta sauce. Let me also show you in here, I put all my baking spices in one of those bins. I just got these on Amazon and I can link them. I used to like, this has made things 100 times easier, so I can find like nutmeg, cinnamon, you know, ginger, whatever I need. I just pull this whole thing out. It's clear. I can easily see what I need and I just grab it. Before this, I had everything just kind of lying down and it was really hard to see what I had. Another thing you can invest in are Lazy Susans. Those are great for deep shelves and they're really good for dark corners. Just one last thing for deep pantries. You can also think about getting those like slim, tall storage containers, especially for dried goods. Take advantage of that narrow space. It works well for small pantries as well. They have like smaller shelves even, so those are a good idea. Now, something else I've talked about a lot is glass containers. I highly recommend see-through glass containers. You want to store your items that way. I like to put my dried goods into containers like this so I know exactly what's inside. I can see it. It's on display, and then you know exactly what you have, going back to that original problem of not being able to see what you have causing most of your problems. And again, these are reused pasta jars. No need to go crazy and buying expensive glass jars. Look around your house, see what you already have, see if you have food containers from food that you've already eaten, and try to reuse as much as possible. So another tip is if you have overflow items or things like that you want to store that come in bigger containers, I always recommend putting those down low on the floor in bins if possible. And speaking of the floor of your pantry, I also recommend putting the heavier things on the floor of your pantry. Let me show you what I do. Okay, so we're at the bottom of this side of the pantry, and these are all just like heavy things. Like this was vinegar, it's not, you know, heavy or full anymore. This is pretty big and heavy. Got some bottles down there. Anything that's heavy or larger, you just want to put it on the bottom so that it doesn't like drop onto your foot or drop onto your head. So just kind of like a safety issue. And then anything you use every day should be eye level or shoulder level and just super accessible. I also, if you have the space, really recommend storing your appliances there as well. This has been game changing for me. I store the ones I use most frequently in the front. So you can see here, I use this bread machine probably once or twice a week, so it's right here. This used to be like in the basement before we had the pantry, or I had it in a different place and it was just totally not accessible and I couldn't stand having to look for it. But now I keep it down here in the bottom and it's been really easy and handy. If you can store your appliances in your pantry, I think that that's like a great idea, makes them accessible, and just keep them down low. So again, so that you don't drop them or anything like that, because of course they're heavy. And then I do like to store items up high, that things that I don't use very often. Maybe I've got like a set of bowls that I only use for Thanksgiving or something like that. In this case, I put those up high, and then I also recommend you could get like a step stool that you could keep near your pantry so that you can reach them. For me, our kitchen table is right next to our pantry, so I usually just grab a chair. However you can, to make sure you can access the items that you put up high. Okay, if you don't have such a big pantry or you don't have the space, I have an idea for you. Let me show you. Okay, I highly recommend something on wheels like this. This is this like rolling cart that I had purchased when I lived in an apartment and I needed to store extra pantry items. And then I brought it to my house with me here. You just move it around. I've got other things in here now. It's not for food, but this is like a perfect idea. If you don't have the pantry space, you can purchase something like this. I'll actually link some things on Amazon that I think could be good solutions for this, but this just fits in small kitchens and you can roll it around and you can use it as like an extra pantry or your entire pantry. Now that we've gotten a lot of good organization ideas, next is about keeping your pantry organized and keeping it clean. So what I like to do is quarterly, I just like to go in and reorganize it. With 5 people in the house and people touching things and adding things, it can always get messy, but if you just kind of quarterly aim to reorganize it, then you will always have an organized pantry. I like to vacuum it out from time to time, especially if like before I go shopping, before it's filled, I like to just vacuum it a little, make sure there aren't crumbs and things around you. I also like to use whatever I have to, like on my snacks, I've got like these clips, I've got these clips, I've got a binder clip, anything that I think could work well, I'll just snag it and stick it in the pantry. I also use clothespins. I like to just keep my food closed just to make sure nothing gets in there. One time I had ants in the pantry. You don't want that problem. You could also label your food with expiration date. I personally loosely follow expiration dates. I think that you can eat food after it's expired. I mean, unless it looks crazy or dangerous, of course, don't do that. But if you're concerned about that, definitely put an expiration date and label it. And then when you go shopping, instead of just buying new food and putting it in front of your old food, of course, you want to pull the old food forward and put the new food behind it. That way, you're always making sure that you're eating the oldest thing first. Okay, well, that is my pantry. Let me know in the comments below if you have any organization tips for your pantry. I would love to hear them. And in the meantime, I'm going to link a video up here. Go ahead and click on it, and I will see you over there. Thanks for watching.